Hey, I'm Luke Milkey, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of behind the scenes of our films, we are going to be showing you how to make a light box on the cheap. I know we're not even in our normal studio here because it's Christmas break. We can't do some of the things we normally would do with the lighting we normally have. We just have a little lamp light here. So what we're going to be doing is making a light box for smaller items, something like this. My father-in-law is making knives, and all he has is a cell phone, so we're going to show him how to make a light box on the cheap that he can make professional-looking photos with just a cell phone. So here we go. First time in Hobby Lobby. Here we come. So a few things you're gonna need when you're doing this is you're gonna need some foam core. This is probably the biggest and most important thing you're gonna need. And it's also the cheapest. This one here, because I got Hobby Lobby, was like $3 a piece. Found the foam core, so here we go. Some places you can buy them for cheaper than that. It's the first time I ever went to Hobby Lobby, so I decided I was gonna jump in and check out their place. That was a good first time in Hobby Lobby. Pretty cool store, a lot bigger than I thought it was. And the other thing we're going to be using, which isn't normally in light boxes, is actually black. Now you might be wondering, why are we putting black in a light box? Isn't black kind of like the opposite of light? Well, the reason for it is we want to have actually the ability to put different colors in the background. Because if everything is white and you're using reflective surfaces like a knife blade, you're going to have issues where the knife blade is going to look like it melds into the background and you're really not going to be able to distinguish it very well from the background. So we're putting the black so the knife blade will be able to stand out against the contrast of the black, but still have the white from above and the round to give it the nice sheen reflections off of here, but also make it stand out from the background. All right, so got 3 whites and 1 just black sheet. Another thing you're gonna need is a hot glue gun. Now this is the only thing we actually had to purchase as far as equipment because we didn't have one here. If you already have a hot glue gun or you have some other glue, that's gonna work. You can use that as well. But without that, this whole build is gonna be like $8, $9, something like that. Depending on where you get your stuff, you can probably build it between $6 and $10 to build this light box. Use the hot glue gun, put in the seams, and make sure everything stays together relatively firm. Another nice thing about doing it this way is you can make it a larger or smaller light box, however you want to make it. It's really up to you. We're going to make one that's going to be just over 2 foot by 2 foot, just because that's the space he has in there. Since he's basically using knives like this size-ish, some a little bit bigger, but he's not making anything like sword length. So this is good enough. 2 by 2 should be big enough, but if you got a little more space in your bench, your studio, whatever, you can make one of these more like 3 foot by 3 foot or even 6 foot by 6 foot if you really wanted to. I don't really know why you want to. I mean, you can make it bigger, you can put people in there too, but that's probably a little bit extreme. You can do that just to actually have an actual studio. Should we pick up some wax paper? Wax paper. Here we go, let's jump in to actually see how we do it. So we got here, this is a 20 by 30 inch, and we got 3 of them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually use the full width, and we're gonna put the walls over the sides here, one on the back. We're gonna make it 15 inches tall, that way you can take one of these sheets and cut it in half to make it the 15 inches tall. That way we will have it a little bit wider than it is deep. That way you can have a little bit longer knives. We wanna set it in and say it's a foot long with the handle and the blade. It can easily fit in here, have a little bit of space in the sides. We also got my son here. Hi. Who's also being his version of helpful. So we're going to go ahead and mark this off. It's 30 inches wide, so we're going to go ahead and cut it at 15 inches. And what better way to cut it than with the knife from my father-in-law. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll mark it at 15 inches here. Mark it 15 inches on this side here. Now we got marked on both sides. We'll go ahead and cut down the lines here.
You got it.
Now we're not cutting all the way through. We're just scoring on this side. Partially because we don't have a good material on the bottom, but then we should be able to just fold it here, snap it. One of the beautiful things about foam core is it snaps and folds relatively easily. Now I got it scored on that side. Just cut it down. Go ahead and cut it down like this. Now you're probably not going to end up with perfect cuts, especially when you use a larger blade like I did. If you use one of the specific like crafting blades, you're probably going to get a much smoother cut than this, but I don't care as much about the exact smoothness on the cut here because I'm going to set them like this. Those will be the tops. So it's not going to be a huge deal as long as they're on the tops. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put the seams up here and we're going to hot glue right along the seams here. Now our hot glue gun is ready to go. So we're going to glue along the seam here. Now we've let the glue dry there. The next thing we need to do is put up one of the sidewalls here. And this is where you can make sure it's perfectly square if that really is going to bother you. Is you're going to also make sure that it's at the very corner there. And up at the top up here, you're also going to make sure that it's squared off there. That'll make sure you have it perfect squared off all the way around. Now I'm going to a little bit particular with my details as far as like being square in that, so I made sure I tacked off the top here to make sure it will stay square as I decided to start gluing down the rest of the way. So I gotta let this dry off here and we'll continue going down. Apparently you can leave these things on too long, so while I was sitting there explaining how to do stuff, the stuff melted up all up inside here and wouldn't come out the end anymore. So now you're also gonna take this thing apart and clear it out. All right, there we go. It's all back together now. Not what I was expecting as one of the delays, but hopefully you don't have the issue. Just make sure you leave these things on too long without being watched. Now we got the one side finished. Let's go ahead, time to put on the other side. And we're going to tack it up to the top after we glue it down on the bottom, just to make sure everything stays nice and square. So there we have it. Here's the box. I know there's not a top or front on it yet. That's intentional. We're going to put wax paper across the top, and then we're going to put wax paper across the front. There's a big fluorescent light just above the workbench down in the basement that's going to shine across the wax paper. We're going to make it a really nice soft light there, but also have the soft light in the front, especially on these reflective metal surfaces. You don't want to have it wide open because you're going to see everything, the reflections behind it. So we have the wax paper in the front with just a small hole for the camera lens. It's going to make everything look nice and shiny without seeing the reflections, the backgrounds, things like that. And we can also add a front light and have the diffusion on the front, really making the knife stand out. So this is going to look really cool. All right, so now we're transporting back from my wife's grandparents back to my father-in-law's. Now that we're able to assemble it without him seeing what we're doing. He actually has stuff in the back of his bed, of his truck, and came out with the exact fit for how much we needed without having to take extra stuff out. Let's make sure this actually shuts. And without destroying anything. I don't think anything broke, so we'll check it out later just to make sure.
All right, the moment is here to check and see how well it traveled. Let's see how it did. Yes! Survived. Let's go set it up. So here we are now in the shop, and this is the wax paper we're using. Wax paper is actually used a lot in the industry to put over lights because it can take pretty high heat, but it also works great as a diffuser for the lights. So we have an LED kind of looking fluorescent light thing up here, and we have the box. So now we're gonna put the wax paper on it and see how it looks. So here's all set up. I know it doesn't look super pretty. The point of this is not for the box to look pretty, but for the final pictures to look pretty. So what we did here is we taped it up. You can see a beautiful blue tape here. But inside of here, if you lift this up, you left this easy to get in, easily accessible. The knife is sitting in there. We have the fluorescent light above that gives nice even light across everything, especially with this wax paper, but we're also using a flashlight as the front light. That way we can get a little bit more definition, especially that little shine on the knife, to really make the metal look metallic instead of just look a flat silver. So this really helps do that. We can also, since it's a flashlight, it is somewhat directional, but going through the wax paper is somewhat diffused as well. So we can kind of just point where we want it on the blade, so the blade can get more or the handle can get more depending on what the knife and all that looks like. So I'm pretty happy with the final product here for being just a couple of $1 box and only use the cell phone. It should look pretty good.